Despite a mild choke when serving out the match and Novak's biggest fan, POTY G, screaming during one of those match points — that was a joke, by the way — Carlos Alcaraz has successfully defended his Wimbledon crown after dominating Novak Djokovic 6-2, 6-2, 7-6 to win his fourth major singles title. This is Alcaraz's second slam in a row after winning Roland Garros a little over a month ago. He's now the sixth man in history to win the Channel Slam, which is winning Roland Garros and Wimbledon in the same year, back-to-back in the same season, joining an elite list of names including Rod Laver, Bjorn Borg, Rafael Nadal, Roger Federer, and of course Novak Djokovic. Hi, my name is Christian Bassnight and welcome to Christian's Court, where I cover tennis from all angles. If you have not already, make sure you all subscribe and make sure you click the notification bell so you're notified whenever I post more excellent content like this. Now, talking about how exactly Alcaraz dismantled the Joker, the 14-minute marathon opening game was huge actually in deciding this outcome. Carlitos, he managed to get that first break in that opening game despite Novak having 3 game points. His net game, Novak's, was visibly off as he struggled immensely to really finish off points in the forecourt. Djokovic won just 33% of net points in set 1. That'd be a huge issue for Novak this entire match, and it was low-key very reminiscent of Serena Williams' atrocious net performance at the 2016 Australian Open final against Angelique Kerber. I mentioned in my preview that Djokovic has been more reliant on his net game and coming into the forecourt in this tournament in particular more than others, as he came into the net over 50 times against Lorenzo Musetti, and he won 77% of points up at net. But I think the pressure and speed that Alcaraz kind of imposed, I think, intimidated Djokovic and caused him to kind of second guess himself and think, oh man, if I don't place this volley well, Alcaraz is going to pass me. Carlos completely outserved Novak in the opening set, and he made 65% of first serves in, which is pretty high for his standards, especially in this tournament. But Alcaraz really went up and after that first serve too, which is why he only dropped 2 points on his first serve and 4 points on his second serve in this first set. Djokovic struggled a lot to really time that return, and he did not get a good read on it at all. Meanwhile, Alcaraz was all on top of the Djokovic serve, and the Spaniard really returned phenomenally well, which is why Novak won just 55% of his first serve points. I thought that Djokovic went to the serve and volley a little bit too much for my liking, especially in the early part of this match, and he was able to get away with it in rounds prior against weaker opponents, but against Alcaraz, who was clearly the best player in the world at the moment at least, who was returning like he was, Novak needed to pick his spots better before following up that serve in with the volley. Now, the second set was very familiar and similar. Of course, it was that same 6-2 scoreline, but Alcaraz once again broke serve in that first game of that set, but this time he did it with much more ease, only dropping 1 point in that return game. The world number 3 targeted that Djokovic forehand immensely too, which was notably off, and Novak sprayed far more errors than normal on that side in particular. I think that Djokovic, for one, he was not as used to the pace of Alcaraz. He had not seen that so consistently throughout this tournament. And then I also think that too, Alcaraz did a tremendous job of wrong-footing Novak, and really once he got an opportunity, he went for his shots. And Djokovic just wasn't used to an opponent really doing that to him consistently. And for sure, Djokovic was not moving well in and out of the corners as he normally does, and obviously you can attribute that to him just recovering from that knee meniscus surgery just over a month ago. But still, Alcaraz came up with a perfect strategy of really testing Novak's movement and physicality. Alcaraz also continued to dominate on his serve once again in the second set. He only dropped 2 points on the first serve and 4 points on the second serve, and also half the points that he dropped on his serve in that second set were double faults, so that's even more insane. Djokovic did make more first serves in, and he had a 71% first serve in rate, but he continued to struggle a lot on his second serve, only taking 33% of points whenever he had to throw in the second delivery. The third set was obviously far more competitive than the opening two. Djokovic did well to save 4 break points at 1-all, because if he had dropped that game, I fear another 6-2 set was in the works for him. But given credit to him, he came out with clutch playing, and his serve really got him out of trouble. And that was the first time we saw Djokovic serve as strong as he did throughout the tournament. I definitely noticed that pickup in his service level and his service game, and he started cruising on his serve for the most part in the next few service games after getting that hold at 1-all. I definitely thought that we would be in for a battle and that Novak would at least push this one to 4 sets, at least especially because Novak started reading that Alcaraz serve a lot better, and Alcaraz struggled to hold serve a lot more in this third set. He really made Alcaraz have to play more and work harder on trying to hold serve, and he prevented the Spaniard from really dominating on the offensive. Djokovic had a 15-30 opening in Alcaraz's first service game of the third set, and he had a strong opportunity to go up 2 break points at 15-40. But Djokovic misplayed a drop volley and let Carlitos off the hook, who finished it off with a winner up the line. Despite Djokovic's improved returning, Alcaraz closed that game out thanks to his incredible defense to offensive transitions, which he showcased throughout this entire final. He really showed that youth prevailed that day because the wheels on that young fella just were outstanding. Novak did have an actual break point though at the 2-3 game, and he looked primed to take control, but Alcaraz saved that break point with a clutch unreturnable serve down the tee. I have to mention that Alcaraz served once again because him going for it really made the difference in this match. He did a decent job of it in 2023 in that final, but the difference was this final he kept going up and after it in all the sets. There were some sets where Alcaraz didn't really go as much after that second serve, and Djokovic was able to kind of get on the offensive. But this time, he really didn't let Novak breathe. And I think it was a great play of him kind of risking throwing him a few more double faults, but it worked tremendously for him out there. I still thought, though, that eventually Alcaraz's service level would drop and Novak would get first blood and break first in this third set. But it was Carlitos who played an unbelievable return game at 4-all to ultimately serve for the match. It was just crazy shot making to break the Joker. He broke Novak at 15 with a booming forehand down the line, then a massive forehand to draw the Djokovic backhand error, then a half volley passing shot, and then he closed out the break with a backhand cross court passing shot. When Alcaraz raced out to that 40-love lead with 3 match points, championship points in tow, everyone thought it was a wrap and done deal, including Tennis TV, who prematurely posted their celebratory graphic. Nerves clearly took over for Carlitos, though, who made 4 unforced errors in that 5-4 game after having 3 championship points. He double faulted on his first match point, and then Novak hit a pretty solid forehand return to draw the error from Alcaraz, and then Alcaraz hit a 132-mile-per-hour serve out wide, which somehow Djokovic managed to get his racket on and get the ball back in play. And Alcaraz decided to go for the riskier forehand swinging volley winner, but he missed just wide. But before Alcaraz missed that swinging volley wide, a fan kind of called out in the middle of the point right before Alcaraz made contact. But even if the fan did that, I still think Alcaraz probably would have missed that shot. Now, after Djokovic broke, he held with ease at 15 thanks to some pretty sloppy Alcaraz unforced errors to win the last 9 out of 10 points. I was definitely worried for Alcaraz, and I thought, oh my gosh, he's going to go to 4 sets. But he held at love that following service game to bring us to a tiebreaker. Alcaraz was definitely the better player in this tiebreaker thanks to his superior returning and obviously better serving. He did fumble on one mini break lead that he had, but thanks to his solid serving at the end, he was able to seal the deal on his 4th match point at 6-4 to claim his 4th Slam title. Now, a big topic of discussion, aside from Alcaraz winning his 4th Grand Slam title and just what an incredible achievement that is of course Novak Djokovic and whether this is the beginning of the end for him and whether this might be the last time we see him in a major final. I think definitely we've already had the changing of the guard. Perhaps that came at the 2023 last year's final here at Wimbledon, where Alcaraz was able to dethrone Novak after Novak had won, I believe, 4 consecutive Wimbledon titles. But this is even more of an apparent changing of the guard because Alcaraz just completely outplayed Novak. And like I said earlier, youth really prevailed here. Alcaraz is 21 years old, 16 years younger than Novak. Ultimately, the experience factor, I think that's no longer in Djokovic's favor because now Alcaraz has won 4 Grand Slams and he is probably, aside from Novak and Rafa, he's the active player with the most Grand Slams, surpassing the likes of Wawrinka and Murray, who both those two are on their way out as well. Of course, you can't forget Jannik Sinner, who won the year's first major at the Australian Open, beating Novak in the process. I do still think that we need to be mindful that this is Novak's first tournament back since having that knee meniscus surgery, and him even making the final here at Wimbledon is an incredible effort in its own. I definitely doubted him. He surpassed my expectations because I didn't even think that Novak should have played this tournament, but he did tremendously well to even make the final. So I think him going this far is a bonus in itself. Of course, he'll be disappointed to not come home with the trophy, but still really not much to hang his head about here. I also thought he looked much better in that third set, and I think that if he were to maybe cash in on one or two of those slim opportunities, maybe he could perhaps come through and push it to 5 sets. But regardless, I don't think he would win this one in 5 sets. I think that Alcaraz's youth would prevail, despite Alcaraz actually playing about 4 hours more than Djokovic throughout this tournament heading into this final. Also, Carlos's run to the title is so incredible too. Just starting in that third round where he beat the 29th seed Tiafoe, coming back from 2 sets to 1 down, and he was actually, I think, 6 points away from defeat, but he was able to find his A-game form when it came time to it. Then Hugo Humbert, he was, I believe, a point or so away from being pushed to 5 sets against him. The talented French lefty is incredible in his own right, and Alcaraz was able to navigate that challenge. Quarterfinals against Tommy Paul, he was down a set and a break, but it was able to cruise through in 4 sets. And then Daniil Medvedev, of course, top 5 player, slam champion, he was able to get through that in the semifinals. So I think that clearly Alcaraz being more battle tested helped him tremendously in this match, and Djokovic just did not have that opponent to really push him and challenge him and test him like Alcaraz did. My biggest concern for Novak is his health, of course. Djokovic has defied so much throughout his long, illustrious career, but Father Time and is undefeated. This knee issue, although he has seemingly recovered well from it, could be the start of something more serious for Nole. Federer at 39 had to retire and play his last match, of course, due to his knee struggles. And then Nadal, who is 38 right now, his hip has sidelined him a lot, and he'll likely be calling it quits very soon. And then, of course, Andy Murray, his back and various other issues with him, physical issues with him, has retired him or forced him to retire at this same age at 37. It definitely doesn't look pretty, to be honest, on paper for Novak, as he has not won a tournament all year and is still yet to defeat a top 10 player. Alcaraz was the clear favorite in this final because of his much tougher road to this championship compared to Novak. Novak, I said it in my preview, this run to the title, or run to the final, reminded me a lot of his 2016 US Open run to the final, where he kind of got a lot of easy walkovers en route to that final, and he definitely did not play anywhere near his best tennis and was beaten deservedly so by the better player, Stanislav Wawrinka, in the final. The same thing definitely could be said here, and I think that Djokovic, while he did get solid wins over the likes of Rune and Musetti, Rune and Musetti do not compare to Alcaraz, especially comparing their form to Carlitos's. I really should have stuck with my gut when predicting this match, and I was initially going to have Alcaraz winning this one in 4 sets, but for some reason something told me to pick Novak because I felt that he would have further motivation and being able to defy the odds. So many people were counting him out, and I just thought, watch him defy the odds yet again and come out and have this rise from the ashes moment. But Carlitos, giving full credit to him, he did not allow him to do that at all. He came out and played by far the best match that he's played throughout the championships here. And I think that those first 2 sets were probably the best match, some of the best tennis he's played in his entire life thus far, which it was awe-inspiring. And I knew that Alcaraz would probably come out and play his best match of the tournament, because throughout the championships, there were just moments where Alcaraz kind of wavered and tailed off a little bit, but he was able to kind of control it. And I knew that he would come into this final with a different type of focus, because he knew that if he did that kind of wavering, Djokovic would likely not let him off the hook like a Medvedev or a Tiafoe did. Really, none of Novak's opponents that he faced throughout the championships were of the caliber that Alcaraz showed today. And I feel like if Novak was in that Alcaraz center half of the draw, he likely would have lost earlier than he did. Of course, he would have lost earlier than he did. He lost to Alcaraz. But that's just to say that, like, he was lucky, I feel, in having this great of a draw. Of course, having that walkover from Alex de Minaur helped him too. And then one of his bigger threats, Alexander Zverev, suffered that knee problem. Otherwise, I think that Zverev probably could have taken him out there if those two faced off in the semifinal. I do think that Novak has at least one more slam left in him, but I do not see him going much further beyond slam number 25. Alcaraz and Sinner, they're just something different, man, and age is just very much in their factor right now. I think that they're hitting their prime years. It is going to be incredibly hard for Novak at 37 to beat them in best of 5, especially. That spirit of Margaret Court is something else, man. It took over Serena Williams in her last 4 slam finals, preventing her from getting to 24. And Novak, of course, he got to 24, but in order to surpass that all-time record, he would have to get to 25. And it was odd as a Serena fan watching Novak come out and play subpar tennis in a slam final. It really was reminiscent of Serena Halep 2019 Wimbledon final. It was low-key traumatic, but this is just the 5th time in Novak's career that he has lost a slam final in straight sets. And really, will it be the last time that he showcased himself in a slam final? It very much might be, but only time can tell. That being said, once again, a lot of credit is owed to Alcaraz. As I said before, this was by far his best match of the tournament, and it's scary because it shows you once he's focused, if he's focused throughout the entire match, he's practically unbeatable. Like, I was awe-inspired by what I saw from him. I expected a letdown and expected Djokovic to at least grab a set, but Alcaraz maintained his foot on Novak's neck and served well, returned well, and I just really have no notes. Of course, the nerves became a factor in that 3rd set when he was up 40-love, 5-4, and I was surprised that he fumbled like that, but it showed his champion mentality to where he was able to kind of recover and ultimately finish things out in the tiebreaker, because I feel like if it were a lot of people would have fumbled that 3rd set and perhaps might have fumbled the last 2, but not Carlos Alcaraz. He really showed that he's a different breed, and he is here to stay for sure. Carlitos is now a perfect 4-0 in slam finals, and he joins Monica Seles, Roger Federer, Naomi Osaka, and Iga Swiatek to win. All those people won their first 4 major titles as well. I kind of gave Carlitos the baby goat title probably ever since he won his first Grand Slam 2 years ago at the 2022 US Open. And just thinking, it's not even been 2 years, but Alcaraz has won 4 or 3 slams since then. Like, it's so insane. He has 4 Grand Slams at 21 years old. If he remains healthy, double digits is well within the picture. There's no denying he will get double digits if he doesn't have some serious injury along the way. That's going to be Alcaraz's biggest threat, aside from Jannik Sinner, of course, is his own body and whether he'll be able to remain healthy, because the Spaniard is pretty injury prone, but if he does remain healthy, there's no reason why he can't get 15 or more slams. Of course, speaking of Sinner, we can't forget about him, as Jannik is still on paper the #1 player in the world, and that brings up a whole other discussion of who is the real best player in the world. Currently, Jannik is, especially by the ATP race, and I think that it is fair to say that he still is the best player in the world. Slams are not everything. Jannik, of course, won the first slam of the year at the Australian Open, and that includes 4 other titles this year. He won in Miami, Halle, and Rotterdam, and in all the tournaments played, he has made the quarterfinals or better. So we cannot sleep on Jannik. He definitely was not perhaps at 100% health-wise in this tournament, where he lost to Daniil Medvedev in the quarterfinals. If he was healthy, it'd be interesting to see how that semifinal outcome would be. I ultimately think that the US Open or the ATP Finals will decide our player of the year. We also can't forget about the Olympics too, which start literally in 2 weeks, which is insane. There's a question of whether Carlos can follow in Rafa Nadal's footsteps and win gold in Paris after winning the Channel Slam, Roland Garros, Wimbledon, and Beijing like he did in 2008. It'll be extremely tough for Carlos, I feel like, changing surfaces like that from clay to grass back to the clay. But if there's anyone that can do it, for sure, I think it is him. Djokovic, I still don't know whether he can get that elusive gold medal in singles, especially with that knee. I would not be surprised if he unfortunately develops some type of other knee problem when he tries to transition back to the surfaces. Of course, Rafael Nadal will see the return of him back at the slam, so perhaps he could have his one last hurrah moment and go for the gold. I picked Casper Ruud actually to win the gold like months ago. For some reason, I just have that feeling, and I still will stick with him in winning the gold. That would be my premature pick, but you never know. Maybe Holger Rune could even come out and have his breakthrough moment and win the gold, so that's a little bit wide open too. I'm excited to see what happens in Paris. But right now, the focus today is on the new king of Wimbledon, the one, the only, Carlos Alcaraz. Congratulations, Carlitos, on another incredible slam title run. That is all for my Wimbledon men's final recap, and let me know in the comments what y'all thought about this crazy performance from Carlos Alcaraz. Do you think that he will indeed be able to replicate Rafa's incredible achievement in 2008 and go for the gold in Paris? Also, let me know whether you think that Novak Djokovic, maybe that might be his last slam final ever, or whether you think that he can somehow win slam number 25 and 26 even. Make sure you all again subscribe and click the notification bell so you all are notified whenever I post more content like this. And I'll see y'all next time here on Christian's Court.